Welcome to Occasional Randomness. We are continuing our voyage through the TV series Farscape. For our prior episodes on Farscape, you can go to our website, occasionalrandomness.podbean.com. Tonight, we'll be recapping and discussing our first two-parter of Season 3 of Farscape, Episode 3, Self-Inflicted Wounds Part 1, Coulda, Woulda, Shoulda, and Episode 4, Self-Inflicted Wounds Part 2, Wait for the Wheel. I'm your host, Eric Scott. And joining me, as always, is my fellow co host, somebody who would never leave his friend stuck in a wormhole, Jason Johnson.
Well, I can tell you I definitely won't, since the last time I did, you broke my nose. It's still a little sore. Anyway, no, definitely wouldn't have invited anybody. Not a chance.
Yeah, there's definitely a little bit of a crew on crew violence in these two episodes here, so we'll discuss that when we get to it.
Yeah, hence the maybe self-inflicted wounds title.
Yeah, could be. I guess you could say Rajo's asking for it. I don't know. We'll get to that point.
I think everybody's asking for it.
Sometimes you just have the annoying crew people you just have to smack upside. No, never mind.
Well, yeah. What are families for?
Yeah, you have your conflict, your disagreements, but then you all come back together at the end, more or less.
That's ominous.
Just the serious two-parter here. So yeah, it's not a lot of light and fluffy in here, but we'll find a couple little happy bits. All right, so let's jump on into it. So, season 3, episode 3, Self-Inflicted Wounds, part 1. Coulda, woulda, shoulda. We open with Aaron and Dargo moving the remaining Interion cryo chamber around the cargo bay, and Dargo's commenting that he's still hurting from finding out about Jothi and Shiana the last couple episodes, but he doesn't really want to talk about it anymore. Aaron tells him that they were just rebelling like children and offers to listen to him. Meanwhile, Stark is watching Zhaan in her quarters, and her condition is getting much worse. We go back to the command deck where Crichton's complaining to Pilot that Stark says Zhaan needs to be put in soil soon. Pilot says that, a planet meeting those requirements are less than an hour away. So let's get there. So Crichton wants to go right now, but Pilot says he thought Crichton might want to see something else first. And we look outside, and there's a wormhole near Moya, of course. Crichton tells Pilot to take some readings, but Pilot says that a ship is approaching really fast out of the wormhole when suddenly it collides with Moya. After some bouncing around a bit, it looks like the two ships appeared to have somehow merged together. Pilot and Moya took the worst of it, and we see in the command deck an alien steps out of something and calling for Nyala. Crichton, being the hospitable host, pulls his gun on him, and everybody panics in the standoff. Stark and Dargo go to tend to Pilot, and the alien comments to this Nyala that they all seem to communicate in different languages, yet all understand each other. And then a DRG sidles up and injects one of them with translator microbes, and then she is able to talk to the crew and introduces herself as Pathfinder Nyala. Dargo and Stark are now with Pilot, who apparently isn't feeling too well and throws up everywhere, mostly on Stark, saying that he can't function where they are. He tells them to disconnect him from Moya's neural nexus and then blows chunks all over Stark again.
Lucky Stark.
Yeah, and Stark goes off to get a shower. Looks like the merged ships are stuck in the wormhole somehow, and Nyala explains that her ship was regaining dimensionality when their ships collided with each other. She says they are trying to bring online a generator that will hopefully help separate them. She says that they can escape the wormhole through a small gap that they pass every third of an arn. And right now they have ricocheted into the turbulent zone of the wormhole. And she says that's a distorted region dividing the wormhole from normal space-time. Meanwhile, in her quarters, Zhaan sees an image of an Earth-like planet through the window, and an image of a serpent also flies past. Stark enters, and Zhaan tells him that the goddess has chosen her harbinger. Stark tells her that the planet is near, but she says that serpent lies between them, which Stark says, no, it's not really there, it's just a hallucination. She tells him that he's so afraid to let go, and he tells her he has a darkness that frightens lovers away. It turns out when he assists dying people, he involuntarily absorbs a part of their existence. Over the many cycles, he's accumulated a vast reservoir of evil, he says. And he says that he can't bear to lose the one thing that mitigates that twisted core of his existence. That would be Zhaan. Back in the cargo bay, Rigel has accidentally triggered the remaining cryo chamber to open, of course. The woman inside suddenly wakes up, asks who Crichton is, and says his time is up. I don't know how she knows who Crichton was, unless they could hear somehow. Anyway, she thinks Crichton's Sebastian, and when asked, she clearly has not heard of Earth. Crichton asks who she is, to which she replies, Julushko Tunai Fenta Hovalis. But that's way too long to keep saying all the time, so Crichton shortens it to Jool. When Rigel tells her that she was stuck in that chamber for 22 cycles, she lets out a terrible scream, which seems to melt nearby metal.
That won't come back.
Yeah, Chekhov's scream. Meanwhile, Moya is trying to get out of the wormhole. She tries to starburst, but that only causes more damage instead of getting them free. Nyala believes that the generator can be repaired before they're all incapacitated, but she needs vital information about their position within the wormhole and asks Crichton to go and get it. Stark tells Crichton that stopping Starburst took everything out of Pilot, so Aaron goes to help. Nyala gives Crichton a position recorder and says that she appreciates the risk he's taking by going outside. We cut to a young Pathfinder on the alien ship named Shrina, telling Kritago, I guess the captain or whatever that ship, that the generator is leaking and she doesn't want to die. But Kritago says that the information on the ship must be saved no matter the cost. Dun, dun, dun. Back on Moya, Jool asks Rigel how her cousins died, and he's just about to tell her when Chiana enters and stops him from blabbing. Jool says, "What are you not telling me?" But Chiana says they're in a crisis right now, so either shut up, help, or go back to sleep. Jool says she won't be spoken to like that by some alley whore. Ooh, game on! When Crichton comes in to take Rigel with him. They leave in Farscape 1 and begin to take their readings. Aaron goes to Dargo, telling him Pilot's been unconscious for an hour, and he should stop ripping out the wiring to separate Pilot from Moya. Dargo's still angry with himself, though, because he almost forgave Chiana, and he asks how he could trust Chiana again, and then asks Aaron if she can trust Crichton. She says that Crichton seems to trust aliens, and the wormhole seems to blind him. Suddenly, a serpent shoots past, and it's definitely real, not a hallucination. Zhaan is with Pilot, and Stark says how masterful she is with him. Zhaan says that he must replace her and minister to these souls on Moya. Stark says he loves her, and Zhaan asks if she didn't feel the same way, and more, how could she ask this sacrifice of him? Meanwhile, outside in Farscape 1, Rigel attempts to take over the ship, and they somehow escape from the wormhole. But Crichton whacks him on the nose repeatedly and turns the ship back inside the wormhole, where they get caught in Moya's docking web. Rigel swears that Crichton has attacked him for the last time.
At least for this episode.
Meanwhile, Aaron and Zhaan have Neelala in command and are questioning her about the serpent, because it ain't a hallucination. She says that she could have killed them all, but didn't, and instead worked with them, proving her intentions. She explains that the serpent only exists in the wormhole and is only visible when its shifts in the phase are present.
That explains everything.
Yeah, say what? Meanwhile, Dargo and Stark are in the corridor, saying that systems are failing everywhere on Moya. Dargo blames Pilot, but Stark says that stress on Moya is frying junctions everywhere. The wormhole is killing her. Meanwhile, Zhaan visits Rigel, who's preparing to kill Crichton, but talks him out of it. He tells her he appreciates her counsel and she says that by him accepting her counsel, she knows he does. Does he really? We'll find out. Meanwhile, Crichton is watching the images that he captured from the wormhole, only he's watching them in his mind with Harvey, hey, he's still there, sitting on a car at a drive-thru. Harvey is a little upset at being called there at Crichton's whim, and when he says that he thinks Scorpius is still alive and that the wormhole technology is the center of a new research facility. Crichton tells him that only one ship can survive, and Harvey says, yeah, he knows, and it's too bad about Moya. Harvey tells Crichton he knows he's already made his decision to abandon Moya in favor of the wormhole technology and is simply trying to justify the decision to himself. He reminds him that if Moya and Pilot are to die anyway, he has to take advantage of the huge prize that dropped upon him and call it a day. Later, the crew are debating which ship to use, with Zhaan, Stark, Aaron, and Dargo objecting to leaving Moya, while Crichton, Jool, and Nyala are in favor. Nyala explains that after separation, one vessel slides into the portal, maintaining a chance of surviving. The other will tumble through the wall to normal space, and probably not survive. While Zhaan continues to object, Rigel and Crichton say they have to leave Moya, and Zhaan comments how desperate Crichton must be for the wormhole technology. Dargo adds that he places his obsession over the lives of his friends. And after everybody leaves, Rigel slyly tells Jool what really happened to her cousins. We cut down to the cargo bay where Aaron tells Crichton that everything's blown. After Aaron leaves, Jool enters and attempts to kill Crichton, but is unsuccessful, and Dargo knocks her unconscious. While that happened, Dargo notices a gap in the force field of that ship that they brought aboard from a couple episodes ago, and then tells Crichton to lock Jool up. Meanwhile, Nyala tells Shrina, remember her, that she does not enjoy sending the youngling to her death, but plays a guilt trip on her about their family and says the crew of Moya must not know her true intention. Meanwhile, Chiana's checking a panel, but before she can close it, it shorts out and blows up. She tells the others that there's no way they can repair all the damage. A big shake occurs on Moya, and Aaron says that settles it. They have to abandon Moya. As everybody reflects on that decision, Dargo sees Chiana and says that he can't leave her alone in pain. Meanwhile, in Pilot's den, Crichton's once again watching the pictures of the wormhole and tells Pilot he's so sorry. When he notices that one of the pictures in the device is a familiar black and white scene. It's the Three Stooges. And then suddenly the serpent shows up and attacks him, and he's left hanging on the edge of the walkway with a long drop below. To be continued.
So they use the Imperial railing standards.
Yeah, they have that no OSHA safety requirements on any kind of ship in this quadrant, yeah.
Gotcha.
All right, some brief trivia about this episode. Among these civilizations that were photographed by the Pathfinder's vessel sensor are the Aquarians from Jeremiah Crichton and the Sycarans from Thank God It's Friday Again. More on this in a minute, but in her shortened role this third season, Virginia Hay, who plays Zhaan, wore a bald cap, while in previous seasons she had shaved her head. According to Paul Goddard, who plays Stark, Pilot's puke was tastier than it looked, and not as revolting as it appeared on screen. I'll take your word for that.
It's probably a good thing for him.
Yeah. Free pudding for the crew today? No, okay. And finally, Jool's hair was designed to change colors with her mood. Blonde when she's calm, and vivid red when excited or angry, I guess. All right, so that was the exciting slash confusing slash interesting part of the first part of the two-parter. Jason, what did you think about it?
So I have to fess up that I really struggled to follow the alien mission plot. Obviously, it's the wormhole stuff and the damage and the merged ships sets everything in motion. But why the aliens are acting the way they are? Did we even get a name for them, like their species? I think I've just referred to them as aliens, but everybody's an alien, so that's kind of confusing too. But yeah, that was probably my struggle with the episode. As we'll kind of hit as we walk through it, I did enjoy a lot of the crew dynamics, but the actual framework of the plot didn't click with me. I still don't know that I actually understand what the struggle was. So
Yeah, I don't think they ever said like what species they were or where they were from, other than I guess somewhere maybe another dimension in the wormhole. I don't know, but yeah. And I guess it doesn't really matter other than they collided and they're trying to get away, and they have something really important information, I guess, about wormholes or something that they have to get back to their whatever planet, place, wherever they came from.
yeah, that again, if I'm nitpicking, that was the thin part of it to me. Was it obviously sets a lot of stuff in motion crew wise and the actions of the episode itself, but the why the framework was just kind of scaffolding at this point.
Yeah, I mean, they're kind of just there to drive the plot along, not because they're important or, well, whatever, I guess. They're just there for how the crew reacts to what's happening versus what they're there for, I guess.
Yeah, but then, like I said, though, I did enjoy a lot of the dynamics part. So I'm just getting my nitpicking out of the way so we can move on to the fun stuff.
So let's get into some of the fun stuff. So off the bat, we have Dargo kind of saying, he's still upset that he screwed up both, his relationship with Chiana and his son. And, but Aaron's like, I'm here for you if you need to talk about anything. So, that's kind of more of the crew bonding that we like about Farscape. That at this point, 2 and 8 seasons in or whatever, that that they've bonded with each other. Dargo's long since stopped thinking of her as like the peacekeeper, the enemy. They're friends. They care about each other. Uh, Except obviously for Rigel, which we'll get to in a minute. Rigel is gone off the rails again, but well, but at least Aaron and Dargo are there for each other.
Right, right. Yeah, there again, even though we had some fallout from the drama of the last couple episodes, which if it never gets spoken of again, I'm good with it. But I guess we still need to get Chiana and Dargo to crewmate standards, if nothing else. And so I think we get there as we'll discuss. But yeah, Aaron and Dargo definitely seem to have a strong bond still, which is good.
Yeah, I guess speaking of strong bonds, we got a lot of great scenes this episode with Stark and Zhaan. And I guess they talk about it, or they talked about it in previous episodes, but I guess you finally get the sense that they really are in love with each other and really care about each other. We have like him trying to keep her spirits up, because she's obviously dying and sick, and he's like, it's we're almost at the place, but then he also tells, well, her and I guess us as an extension, that he needs her to keep him calm, and that darkness that he's absorbed, she helps kind of keep that at bay. And then on the other hand, she's trying to, like, just coax him up and prepare him for her possible death, and for him to continue on as she did in trying to care for and tend to Moya's crew. So those kind of little touching scenes.
Yeah, and we're definitely starting to see, like you said, the prep work of getting him ready to deal with her loss, assuming she's as ill as she seems to be. And also I think it's a neat note that no matter what, Zan's still doing her best to make sure that there's somebody there to look after the spiritual needs of the crew. So she's putting her replacement in place as well.
Yeah, because Stark is kind of in that kind of mold where he's kind of like he's not a healer per se, but he like more like a minister. Like he like ministers to the crew or to like dying people, or helps them, comfort them when they're sad or dying or whatever. So yeah, maybe he'll become the new Zhaan. Who knows? We'll see.
It'll be interesting to see what he can do for the living, right? Not just the
Yeah.
transitioning. So
And then we kind of have a new potential crew member here, Jool, which actually, spoiler alert, yeah, she's going to be part of the crew, which we'll get to that next episode. But yeah, so she's around for a bit.
this one caught me completely off guard. I kind of thought we had a full boat after Stark and Crace actors had their name added to the preseason credits this season, right? So we kind of added on some permanent characters, I was not expecting any new crew members to be permanent. And as I was watching, I was kind of like, "Is she actually sticking around?" You know, because they kind of did that with Stark, right? He showed up, and you're like, "Oh, he's gone. Oh wait, he's still there." And I kind of got the feeling that this was going to be another one of those where it's like, "Nope, this is not just a one off."
Yep, she'll be around for a bit. And we'll talk more about her, I guess, next episode because she has a little bit more to do next time than this time. And, this is kind of a serious episode so far, but, there's some funny bits. I did kind of mention it, talking about that, pilot throwing up Oliver Stark. That was probably the funniest part of the episode. The look on Stark's face as he's like sitting there, it was priceless. It was just like, he's like, what the heck just happened? So, a nice kind of break in the tension of the episode.
Yeah, and it gave us something to do with Pilot, right? Because after this, he kind of is out of commission for the rest of the two-parter. So having a little bit of Pilot's better than having no Pilot.
Yeah, I mean, he's pretty much, apart from like what the first 10 minutes of the episode, he's pretty much sidelined for just about the next 90% of both
Yeah,
episodes.
I mean,
So,
spoiler for the next episode, he gets like 5 minutes of time at the end. So he definitely doesn't get a whole lot to do in this setup, but he does get to contribute to the humor of this episode. So that's pretty good.
and then, like we said before, our little visitors here, wormhole travelers, what do you want to call them? I guess they aren't as nice as they might or could have been if you had an accident with, another ship. Apparently, whatever they have is so important they have to get it back to their people. I guess something like their families will die if they don't for some reason. So that's kind of, I guess, extra pressure when you go on a mission that if you don't come back, we're going to kill your family. So I guess I can kind of see that they're going to be the bad guys because, or quote unquote bad guys, because if their families are on the line, then okay, sure, they have motivation to, get their ship home, not Moya, if they can only save one ship, right? So, that's their best interest.
Well, and that kind of leaves us feeling slightly bad because obviously, Moya's got to survive, so they obviously aren't successful, and therefore their families are going to get it. There's probably some fallout on the other side of this that makes it for a less happy episode as well.
Yeah, because it would really change the whole show dynamic if they went on board that other ship and left, and then Moya and Pilot died. So yeah, we know that's not going to happen probably. So
Right, right. So if we make that assumption at this point, then it's not looking good for their families.
yeah, or they pull out the usual sci-fi thing at the end where it's like, we can save both ships, but we'll find out next time. And I mentioned before about at least one of the crew going off the rails. We get to see that Rigel is really vindictive when he wants to be. He was being his usual selfish self when they're on Farscape 1 and actually got out of the wormhole and back to normal space and didn't really care about anybody. If anybody else made it or died, he's out. He's good. Thanks a lot. Let's go, Crichton. And Crichton's like, no, and beats the literal stuffing out of him, because he's a Muppet, get it? So stuffing.
Well, and we can point out that he and Crichton were the only ones actually in space at this point, so he was the Muppet in space.
There we go. That's right. And then he eventually, I won't say, I guess he kind of embellishes or lies, I guess, to Jool about how her cousins died to get her to try to kill Crichton, because really, Joffy opened up the one thing and killed the guy, and I guess Crichton didn't want the other one opened so they could, take part of that guy's brain to heal him from a couple episodes ago. So he's basically just using Jool to kill Crichton and not feel bad about it. And since I guess his original plan failed when he tried to get a poison syringe and Zhaan stopped him, so he's just trying to do anything at this point for some reason to really kill Crichton for some reason, because I guess he broke his nose. Okay.
Yeah, I guess this is my place to insert my regular grumble of aren't we past this? And I guess Rigel's got a Rigel, but this is a little extreme trying to murder Crichton just because he didn't get his way. We're a long way from fighting over crackers, but Rigel's still Rigel.
Although we do get to see, like they said in the trivia, that Jules' hair when she gets really mad is now like bright red. So okay, it's something cool and different. But other than that, yeah, she's a bad shot, and good thing she is too.
Yeah, she'd have been better off just screaming at him.
Yeah, if you have like fillings or like if you had like a metal plate in your head, metal splint or something, with that would probably be a bad thing if she's screaming at you.
Yeah, yeah. Her and Stark do not meet in the same place when she screams. Let's put it that way.
Oh yeah, I didn't think about that. That'd be interesting. You can literally melt Stark's face off. Yeah. And then I guess kind of the other potentially out of character thing with the episode is, what do you think about Crichton seemingly putting the wormhole technology over Moya and Pilot and maybe the others? I mean, granted, he does when he escapes go back to Moya, but maybe that's because he wanted to keep talking to Nyala and those guys about wormholes or use it to then go home or something. I don't know, because the aliens sure seem to know a lot about wormholes. And because they explain all kinds of technobabble and whatever about different spaces and triplet zones and all this kind of stuff. Even before he saw the Earth images, hint that he's nearby somehow. But yeah, it just seems he was all in on just, oh well, Moya's done, we're out of here. Even if maybe there's a remote chance she could be saved somehow.
Yeah, I don't know how I felt about that. It's a little, I guess we're trying to reestablish the importance of the wormhole stuff. So, this seems to do a lot of setup for that. But you're right, it did seem a little out of character based on the way he's protected and gone out of his way to protect Moya and Pilot in other spots. I would, if I could have made one change, I think it would have been neat to see when he and Rigel come out of the wormhole that it was at Earth, right? And then it would have made his decision to go back into the wormhole even more meaningful if he was abandoning Earth there.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that does set up the tension with can they trust Crichton? It's adding drama to the show, which that's the whole point of a sci-fi drama is to have drama and sci-fi, but drama. So it's like and someone's got to be the first one to say Moya's a lost cause, right? Aaron then I guess comes around towards the end saying, yeah, it looks like it's over. So I guess someone had to be first. I don't know.
Yeah, although I could see it being normally if it wasn't about wormholes, she'd be the first one to do it, and Crichton would be doing everything he could to be emotional and not logical. So
yeah, so someone's got to do it. So let's hang on Crichton this time. All right, that's pretty much all the major elements of this episode as they're setting up, obviously the first parter to do the exciting conclusion. Anything else you want to comment on this first one?
No, I think everything else will kind of bleed into the next one. As these are pretty tightly mixed two-parters. So,
yeah. Although I will say, Crichton does name drop the episode when he's sitting there in Pilot's den before the serpent hits him. So we got if you're keeping score, we got an episode name drop. So there you go. Hasn't happened in a while. There we go.
Always good to get those back. All right, so let's move into Season 3, Episode 4, Self-Inflicted Wounds, Part 2, Wait for the Wheel. Take a breath. So, confronted by the serpent, Crichton manages to shoot it with his pulse pistol and scare it off. The recording device is damaged, but when Aaron and Zhaan join him, he says that he saw a picture of a TV transmission from Earth, the Three Stooges. He says that it means that some part of the wormhole is 40 light years at most from Earth, and he could get home when Zhaan points out the selfishness of this in the current situation. She asks where Neela's injured crew member is, since their blood is on the floor. They realize that the Favetilian generator, say that 3 times fast, which could alter the phase of an object. Fastilian, Fazetilian. Okay, I get it.
There you go.
It takes me a minute. Could have made them invisible. So Kritaga tells Nyala that he continues to grow weak. She says that they must continue to make the crew believe that Moya grows weak. The remotest hope will make them rally to her. Then Kritaga makes himself invisible. She tells him to sabotage the ship to make them see that they must abandon the Leviathan. Chiana, Crichton, and Rigel are discussing whether or not to go on Nyala's ship if the aliens are lying, as the rest of the crew are also convening, saying that they cannot trust Crichton's judgment, and Aaron says that she is sure Crichton is still talking to Scorpius. And by Scorpius, she probably means Harvey, right?
Yeah, I'm sure he hasn't told her his nickname or whatever. Yeah.
Right, but we're not talking to Scorpius, who they think is dead. Anyway, they describe their plan to discover Nyala, but it's exactly the same as the others' plan. So, even apart, they're on the same page. Rigel agrees to search below Pilot's den. Crichton meets Dargo in the new ship. It's the one that they figured out how to open, see past episode. And they both ask each other what they're doing there. Dargo fiddles about with the controls, which worries Crichton, and Dargo says that being on Moya has changed him. He says that he neglected Chiana, but what troubles him the most is that he did his very best and it wasn't enough, and as a result, he lost both her and Jothi. Crichton says that his grandmother once told him that life is like a great wheel. In that sometimes it grinds you low, while other times it lifts you high. The point is, the wheel is always turning. You just have to wait for it.
And now we finally have a clue what the heck that title means. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and now I have a song stuck in my head. Anyway, Rigel finds Shrina's body, apparently bitten by the serpent. He takes a sample of her needles for Aaron, as she says she likes to know her enemy. In command, Zhaan begins to lose control to her illness and snarls that Nyala's betrayal must be punished before she regains control of her. Aaron states that being revived in exchange for Zhaan giving up her health was a bad trade, but Zhaan tells her not to underestimate herself. Zhaan gently tells Aaron that despite how it looks, they're actually a lot alike. Both with violent pasts, but changed for the better, avoid Moya, and Zhaan feels that while her life is growing short, she knows Aaron has a life full of possibilities ahead of her. Jool, hey, remember her? Is upset about her current situation, being captured on a ship after 22 cycles asleep by a group of prisoners. Stark snaps at her in his madness and says that he'll show her something to make her cry forever, which causes her to scream, and a panel shorts out. Stark tells the others that the panel was offline, so someone invisible must be here, or was here. Nyala tells the crew that her mission is guaranteed by their families, who will be executed if they fail. She says what's left in their situation is wormhole technology, garnered at great cost with extreme power, and asks Crichton to compare it with the life of a Leviathan and its pilot, who are doomed anyway. Aaron tells her to stop Critago, but Nyala says that he has no communication device and will continue his mission. However, Dargo and Chiana find Critago with the help of some DRDs. However, Chiana gets shot by one of his needles. Zhaan gets Rigel's samples to make an antidote and tells Nyala that if Chiana dies, she will kill her. The generator has reached optimal phase, and when it's activated, they'll find out if the ships are destined to separate. Dargo gets Stark and Rigel to help him reconnect Pilot to give him a chance of survival. If they're not done in time, they'll race to the other ship. Meanwhile, Crichton and Aaron are preparing for Starburst, with Crichton saying that he really blew this one. They hear Jool scream and go to scare the serpent away from her. Zhaan manages to heal Chiana thanks to Rigel. She tells Dargo how she wanted him to kill her when she first came aboard Moya so she wouldn't stay imprisoned. He says a planet is out there to heal her, but she says it is now in the hands of the goddess. Meanwhile, Rigel tells Stark that it's too bad about Pilot. He liked him. Stark says that Pilot liked Rigel too. He told him so. Crichton unlocks Jool and tells her to call them back when she thinks the generator will blow. Moya begins decompressing when Crichton and Aaron encounter the serpent again. Crichton says that he has a plan, but she says that they never work. He says they always do, but she says nope, they never do. They climb into the new ship and turn on its force field, which the serpent runs into and dies.
Gee, that was easy.
Yeah, kind of.
Anticlimactic, yeah.
Yeah, I thought they'd keep dragging that one out. Anyway, Zhaan prays to the goddess to see her path when Aaron enters Pilot's den. Zhaan asks the goddess to save Moya and Pilot and ask anything in return when Aaron says that the seal held and the air is thin but breathable. Aaron gets Moya's adrenal secretions pumping with an attempt to revive Pilot. Jool asks Crichton why Moya is so important to him and says she's like a parent. She raised them. Crichton is visited by Harvey, who says that he's free, no more dumpster, and that Crichton will do anything to save his ship, so I assume Ness of Nyala. He runs into Jool, who's been hit in the head. Aaron has managed to wake Pilot as Crichton confronts Nyala, who says that she could have killed them when she had the chance. She has gassed the room so that if Crichton uses his pistol, it will cause an explosion. She's attached a beacon to Moya, so her race will come and seek her out if Moya survives. She begins to shoot needles when Crichton runs into Jool. Nyala shoots at them, but Jool's scream melts the tips of her needles before they hit. Crichton kicks Nyala and she falls into the generator and is vaporized. Crichton and Jool get the generator's control, but Aaron says that Pilot needs more time for the calculation. Zhaan enters and tells Crichton what to do at the controls as Aaron is on her way. The others won't make it, so they say they have voted to stay together no matter what. Pilot has to initiate Starburst 7 microns after the generator is activated, and Aaron tells Crichton they don't have to be as close as he thinks, since Moya's weight gives an advantage with the gravitational pull of the wormhole. Pilot gives Crichton manual control, and Crichton wants Aaron to take over. She's reluctant when Zhaan, realizing what Crichton is about to do, tries to stop him. He says he's got this, and Aaron asks what's going on. Jool says that someone has to actually trigger the generator, meaning that they will be stuck on Nyala's ship when it's destroyed. Aaron wants to, but Crichton says this is his fault, so he will. But Zhaan interjects and says that in this instance they're both wrong. She's willing to sacrifice herself to save the others, as her illness is frighteningly efficient, and it's likely too late for the planet to save her. Zhaan says she's chosen this path while she still can. Dargo says that she's needed to get aboard Moya, but she says at one time she was, and now a family has been born. He says that she birthed it, and Chiana says they love her. Crichton says he can do it easily, but she says if it's easy, then allow her to. Aaron still objects, but Zhaan says that if she is so valued and so wise, they will honor her words, they will obey her. And she says she knows she's worthy to meet the goddess now. She says that there's no blame, only what is meant to be, and tells them to grow through their mistakes and redemption will find them. Crichton says to wait for the wheel, and she thanks him and gives them the goodbye. Stark screams when Zhaan touches him mentally, asking him to guide her to the place of rest so that she can share her last moments with the man she loves. She initiates the sequence and the ships separate. She can be seen on it one last time as the crew cry out for her before the ship is destroyed. Crichton helps Aaron to the controls and they manage to steer Moya out. With Moya still damaged, Rigel is with Pilot, who says that Rigel has never paid this much attention to him before, and Rigel says that he just actually hasn't noticed and that he likes Pilot a lot and knows Zhaan did too. He says it's a shame that he didn't get to say goodbye, but Pilot says that when he was unconscious, she came to him in his mind, and he already misses her. As Dargo sits alone in his new ship, Aaron is with Stark, who says she doesn't have to hover over him. Aaron says she expected him to be more upset, but he says that while many who he crosses over resist the process, Zhaan didn't. She was so at peace, so certain with what was next was better, that she didn't want them upset, but wants them to be positive in her spirit. Aaron asks if he can do that, and Stark admits that he won't always be able to, and when he can't, he would appreciate her hovering over him then. Crichton sits alone in Zhaan's destroyed quarters, knowing it was his obsession with the wormhole that cost his friend her life. In his head, he's watching a memory of the Three Stooges at a drive-in with Harvey, who asks him why it's always the gentle ones who pay the price for someone else's ambition. Crichton, knowing the words to be true, throws his beer bottle away in rage. A little trivia for this episode. Claudia Black suggested the Yoda from Dagobah line, since she felt Aaron would have picked up some of Crichton's pop culture references. The scene where Chiana and Dargo look for the invisible Pathfinder was done live on set with dry ice and laser beams. Both Virginia Hay and Gigi Edgley had trouble shooting their final scene together and had to have their makeup redone due to their genuine tears. The original plan was to have Zhaan planted in a planet's soil and return for her in a few episodes. The Three Stooges film Crichton watches is Disorder in the Court, one of about a half dozen Stooges shorts from the 1930s that have fallen into public domain, meaning the footage could be used without the production team needing to pay royalties or licensing fees. They got clearance to use the clip on the morning the drive-in scene was about to be shot. Crichton's calculation that the wormhole is no more than 40 years from Earth is based upon the theory that television broadcasts on Earth, particularly those directed at broadcast satellites, continue outward from Earth at the speed of light and may therefore be receivable by spacecraft or planets within that range. Virginia Hay became the only day one cast member to leave the series as a regular, and one of the reasons for her departure was that the blue makeup worn over her head and chest to achieve Zhaan's appearance caused her kidneys to bleed, resulting in subsequent decline in her health. So that was a lot to go through there. Eric, what'd you think of that one?
Yeah, so another great ending of Farscape's multi-parters. Story was good. The acting obviously was the best part as they're dealing with what happened, especially the scenes leading up to Zhaan deciding to sacrifice herself, and then everybody's reactions to not having her do that, and basically throughout the rest of the episode as they're dealing with it afterwards, which kind of was much better. Like trying to compare it to something recent-ish around the time, well, not recent-ish, but close enough. Is I guess thinking about like Tasha Yar in TNG season one. She was there for like what, half a season and gets blown away. So you kind of hardly knew her, so it didn't really have it as an effect as much as this one did. Because I guess here we've known Zhaan for over 2 years, and obviously the crew knew her for longer than that because they were all prisoners together. So I guess yeah, two thumbs up for these episodes. They do their multi-parters pretty good.
Yeah, as I kind of mentioned in the last one, I was struggling with a little bit of the framework and this pulled together a lot of the story that I was struggling with, and the emotional fallout for this one was pretty big. So I definitely think we got a lot in this last bit.
Yeah, because we're saying off recording that this was kind of just like one big episode. Like usually how some of the two-parters it's the same way they build it up and then they have to wrap it up. But this was kind of done such that it could have been like just a 2-hour episode effectively. The way they it all flowed together. It wasn't like as distorted and jumpy as some kind of two-parters.
Yeah, it easily could have been just played together and done as like a season mid-break or something. I'm not saying we are that far in the season. I'm just saying that if you were looking for something to kind of wrap up the first half of a season, this was definitely something that would have done it. They flows together that well.
Yeah, they could be like, tonight on a very special episode of Farscape. So I guess we kind of usually go sequentially through the episode, but however, given what happened, and we've lost our first major character that kind of took up pretty much most of the second episode. Let's just jump on that first. So, what'd you think about Zhaan sacrificing herself? You think they were really going to go through with it, or somehow come up with that sci-fi miracle ending and oh, everybody's fine?
So this was an interesting one because at first I wasn't surprised by the sacrifice, right? I mean, obviously they've been making a big deal about her illness. It's very in character for Zhaan to try to sacrifice herself. But I did expect Stark to either save her or kind of indicate they could find her again, kind of like he'd passed on his reconstitution ability, or he could go find her, or something like that. But I'll also say I usually avoid spoilers, but I did see the health issues being a cause to her leave, and kind of use that to realize that that probably is not going to be the case here, and she's not coming back.
Yeah, and having watched this originally, I knew that yeah, she was no longer with the series, but I didn't realize why she left. I didn't, at the time. I guess there's internet back then, but I didn't really go look or anything. I just was like, oh, okay, they did the new thing with TV shows now, of killing off a crew member or cast member. Okay, but thinking about it a little more, they could have, this is sci-fi. You can do anything you want. I mean, they could have gotten her off the ship, saved her, and planted her in the planet wherever they're going to go. And through, just the miraculously healing properties of that planet, she could have come back as, like her normal skin color, normal human skin color, maybe with some, little dots of like she had from her other makeup and been fine. But I'm guessing that the makeup really made her sick enough that I guess continuing on, even in limited capacity, probably wasn't a good thing.
Yeah, I can't remember where I read it, but I did see something that said that at one point the actress, actually wanted to leave it open so that she could come back occasionally, but then I think it just wound up making her too sick and having to move on. So, and I do find it interesting, just as a side tangent, that even this recent, I mean, I realize this show's a little ways back, but that we were still having medical issues caused by makeup, right? In these type of shows, you don't think about that these days, but now if I picture like the stories of the Tin Men and Wizard of Oz, and yet this show ran into a similar situation where it was causing health issues.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, yeah, because, there's makeup and skin colorings for, however long in sci-fi and fantasy movies and TV shows and stuff. But I guess maybe this just had some unforeseen reaction with her physiology or something. Yeah, that it was just like, wow, it's causing your kidneys to bleed. Yeah, I guess I'd be like, okay, I'm done. Thank you. The role's not worth dying over, literally, right?
No, it's money doesn't matter at that point. So
Yeah, and who knows? I mean, I don't remember if they do like little clips or dreams or other alternate reality things coming up. Maybe she'll make an appearance or two later. I don't know. Who knows? But yeah, I mean, obviously, your health is more important than a TV show. So can understand why she left.
although it would have been, and I realized that the color was kind of important to the character, but it would have been interesting to use the sickness to just change her to human skin tone and do away with the makeup. But
Hmm. Is what it is. So
it is what it is. We could obviously retconning a historical TV show at this point. It's probably not a good idea. So
yeah,
uh, they did what
and
they
and,
did.
and made for good TV, right? Because you're hoping that oh they're gonna pull it out because that usually they do, right? And then oh wow, okay.
Oh yeah, we definitely just had the stakes raised because now, like you said, we've lost our first original main character from the beginning, and that shows you that you're not guaranteed any of them to make it through.
Yeah, except Crichton because it's kind of his show, sort of, kind of. So.
Ah, it would be the first time we kill off the main character in TV show. But anyway,
True, yeah, and then yeah, real quick thought like Babylon 5, the commander, they he leaves and then they get a new guy and then it keeps going. So yeah, I mean you can replace people to some degree, depends how you write the series. But yeah, we'll see how Stark does here as acting Zan now. So all right, so yeah, let's kind of jump back to the earlier parts. So Crichton seems to think he's about 40 light years away from Earth, which okay, but I would think that seems kind of a little too close, given how obviously centuries old these civilizations are out where we, in this part of the galaxy, which I guess now we know might be really close to Earth. But you think we would have, Earthlings would have picked up something by now from them because we're looking for stuff all the time, unless whatever they're doing now is so beyond what we can pick up. But so I don't know. I'm like, I'm gonna headcanon that that's not really as far away as he thinks it is, but whatever.
Well, two things. One, I really struggle with distances in this region of space anyway, right? Like do they consider a light year far or not far? But also was that 40 light years away inside the wormhole and not in space, right? So unless he can manage to get back into a wormhole, it may be further than that from normal space.
Yeah, or yeah, there's something in between the uncharted territories and Earth that we're not going to pick up their signal. I don't know. Yeah, but it just seems like I mean it's a thing they threw out there that gives Crichton hope that he's closer than they thought. So okay, fine.
But there's also dragons, so
Yeah, wormhole space dragons. Yeah. And I guess on a little good note, I guess since Aaron's prowler got destroyed end of season two, I'm guessing this new little ship that they captured by accident a couple episodes ago that Dargo's fiddling around with. I guess that's the new replacement ship. So I guess they'll have some fun learning how that works. Which yeah, Dargo just flipping random controls while he's inside Moya's docking bay. I'm like, what if you like turn the engines on, or if there's a weapon and like, you like blow a hole through the side of Moya? Like it's not probably not a good thing to be messing with when you're just, hey, what's this do? And while they're sitting in there, like him and Crichton, we do get a little more of our Dargo trying to come to grips with Chiana and Jotham, and trying to confide in Crichton that couldn't keep them. He feels bad, and then Crichton goes in this long story about his grandmother and the wheel, and kind of name drops the episode. So good job. Now we got double name drop 2 episodes in a row. There we go.
name dropping a two-parter too. That should be like an extra star.
Yeah, because I don't think they've name dropped other multi-parters, have they? Because yeah, like look at the princess. You're not gonna drop that in a conversation, so other ones
I
I'm
mean, he
thinking of.
really should have. He should stop and just been like, look at the print. Anyway, uh,
Yeah,
but no, I do think that's an interesting point about the replacement for the Prowler, and I also find it interesting that Aaron's Prowler was obviously a big part of being tied to her and her past, and we still refer to it as Aaron's Prowler, right? Because it came with her. But this one's going to be more connected with Dargo. He mentions it seems familiar to him, and maybe we've got a new function of him on board the ship because it's going to be him piloting the away mission type stuff.
yeah, could be. So he's now the combat pilot, or he has the cool ship now versus our little old obsolete Farscape 1 module and the little transport pods that Moya has, right? So now we got the souped up sports car model,
Well, and especially since Farscape 1 gets burned out again, right? That thing's always, burned out somehow. So,
And I guess we get more of our little backstory on the aliens that they're sabotaging Moya so they can save their ship and get home. And just as a fun bit, which comes into play later, we learn that I guess they can shoot little poison darts out because the one guy hits Chiana and Dargo drags her off to Zhaan. So Zhaan to the rescue one last time. So yay, because could Stark invaded the antidote? Maybe I don't know.
right now we're, without Zhaan, we're going to be at a lot more risk of nobody being able to whip up the alchemy part to save and be the medic. So now we need a ship medic. Maybe Jool has some medical training.
Yeah, because so far, obviously she's only been around for a couple scenes this episode, last episode, so we have no idea what she can do other than she screams a lot and it's really annoying, but at least they made it to where her scream can melt metal, so that's kind of cool. So it, melted the tip, which I guess the needles that they shoot out of their alien heads were, had metal tips on the front. Okay, so that doesn't sound natural, but anyway, it melted the tips of those and saved Crichton, so hey, benefit there because she's so far she seems to be kind of like the stereotypical TV female, like easily frightened, screams a lot, a really lot. But so like, maybe they were banking on that and said, well, if we're gonna have her scream a lot because she's that kind of character, then maybe rather than just being annoying to the audience, it can do something. So okay, it'll melt metal. Yeah, that sounds great. Let's go with that. Although it is, I guess, like a complete 180 from the rather strong female characters we have on Farscape. Aaron, Zhaan, and Chiana are all in different ways very strong female characters types on the show compared to Jool, at least, well, so far.
Well, and if we're getting a trade for Zhaan, character wise, I don't think this was a good trade. Um, somebody didn't negotiate very well there, but also as a side note, I think she's supposed to be some kind of royalty, or at least that's the impression I get from her attitude. So it'll be interesting to see how that works with Rigel and his opinion that he's the Dominar and the head most important person on the ship, right?
Yeah, so we can have like, dueling royals or something,
Right.
Could be interesting. Although, not to foreshadow, there's another annoying healer type person to come later. So just, I'll just toss it out there just because. But I'm foreshadowing. But yeah, so
Uh, It's
she's
not
not
a
as annoying.
it's not a hard light hologram, is it?
Yeah, no, yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
So she's not as annoying as what's coming later.
Yay.
From what I remember, I could be wrong from what I remember, but we'll talk about when we get there. And then, hey, Harvey's back again. He was back last episode for like a scene or two, but now he's back again, and he's really adamant that he's not gonna be in the dumpster anymore. He's his own person, well, sort of. So, but hey, he's just here offering advice, or he's just telling Crichton what he thinks or what he would do in Crichton's situation, or is he kind of basically chip off the old Scorpius block there, and he's trying to direct Crichton towards things that would benefit him, him being Harvey, not Crichton, right? Because obviously he has nowhere near the control he had before of like stopping his body functions and making him go crazy. At least for now, ha ha ha. We'll see.
Yeah, that's not ominous at all. Yeah, that dumpster did not last near as long as I was expecting. I mean, we made it what 3 episodes, so that was something I was not expecting it to be him to be as powerful as I mean to appear again in awake space, right? And it makes you kind of question Crichton's thoughts and state of mind if he let him out to begin with and actually started the conversation back up.
Yeah, because obviously, he had a lot more control when the chip was in there. Now that it's out, or at least we think it's out, right? So now he's not as strong, and maybe now he's like slowly getting stronger. Like, because now he's like, okay, I'm out of the dumpster now. I'm not going back. Like, well, could Crichton put him back in there? Maybe, maybe not. Who knows? So yeah, I guess we'll see as the season goes, because he's in the opening credits, cast list, so he's gonna be there at least the rest of the season. Hopefully, we'll see. But yeah, is he gonna keep, each time he sees him, is he gonna get like a little more powerful, a little more control? Who knows?
Yeah, because Crichton seems content to hang out with him and watch movies. So
Yeah, because he thinks he's just extra voice in his head that's not dangerous. So yeah, now he's kind of more open and more conversational than he was prior to when we saw it before. So yeah, who knows? Anything's possible. All right. Anything else before we wrap these two up?
no, I think like we said, these flowed real well together. So I think it's a good point to tie them up together.
Yep. All right. So let's do that. So yeah, I mean overall I liked them. Some of it was a little confusing, but like you had said, but there didn't seem to be like any kind of like filler. Like with a three-parter, they kind of like were filling some stuff in there to make it a three-parter. Here with the two-parter, I didn't think anything felt like they had to rush to throw something in there, or a bit that if he took it out of the episode, it wouldn't make a difference. Wouldn't care. The alien crew were slightly interesting, or at least as interesting as they needed to be to drive the plot along, to be the villains, or at least the other side of the coin, I guess, what the crew wanted to do to have that conflict. And they do a good job of you knew what they were up to, but then letting the characters figure that out. So we got some audience foreshadowing drama kind of thing, like no, they're against you. Look at you. And of course we get the great scenes with Zhaan by herself, as well as pretty much with every other member of the crew. So she pretty much says goodbye to everybody more or less. A nice, touching, meaningful death scene as opposed to other places. But like we said, sci-fi is not always permanent. Although in this case it probably is because of what it kind of quasi permanently did to the actress, so that's not a good thing. But yeah, I mean, overall I liked it, and like we said before, if you're keeping score at home, Crichton does actually name drop both episode titles, so yay, we like that.
We do like that. Just to kind of sum it up, probably not my favorite two-parter, but I do think that, as you kind of said, the aliens and the conflict with them was not the important part of these episodes. It was the crew dynamic and the impact that Zhaan's death and departure will have on that. So I think from that standpoint, it's definitely a great two-parter for moving the crew forward. And yeah, we're at an exciting place in Farscape.
Yep, we're excited to see where it goes. And speaking of which, next time we got season 3, episode 5, different destinations. Okay, so maybe they don't stay together. Oh, anyway, and episode 6, Eat Me. So yeah, playing our usual guessing game of what do those titles mean? Different destinations. Well, as I kind of joked about, that could be anything, but maybe they're splitting up now. They just had a big soul-shattering experience. Are they gonna go away for a little bit to like I don't know, get their heads back together? I don't know, something. Not permanently, obviously, because then the show's over, right? And we don't care anymore. Not really sure what else kind of comes to mind there. Uh, as for Eat Me, oh my, I don't think it's like the swear swear version of that because Farscape likes its swearing, but they don't usually leave it that unaltered English. They make up their own words for it. So I'm guessing it's not that. Please, I hope it's not that. So maybe let's go for the obvious, like food related. Whether the crew's eating something and something happens, or something's trying to eat them. Maybe. I'm kind of thought back to if you ever watched the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy TV show, like the little BBC miniseries from I guess what the 80s, when they're at Millie Ways, the restaurant at the end of the universe, and Arthur Dent's introduced to a talking creature that says it's going to be someone's lunch, and Arthur's rather upset about that, and the creature's like, "No, it's fine, it's great, it's no problem. I'm I have no problem with it." So maybe something like that. I don't know.
So you're right on the different destinations. I may take that to mean not necessarily a split, but more maybe a conversation around where they want to go. Right? Crichton's obviously still hung up on Earth and his goal of figuring out the wormhole technology for that, but that's not where the rest of the crew wants to go. So maybe that destination just maybe a revisit to what's our actual goal. And then the eat me part, I could be totally off base, but that always makes me think of the size changing food from Alice in Wonderland, right? The I can't remember
Yeah,
which did which, but you got the package that says drink me and the package that says eat me. So I don't know how that would relate to Farscape, but that's the first thing that jumps into my mind.
yeah. We could maybe have like our little psychedelic kind of trippy thing. Maybe I don't know if you're thinking about Alice in Wonderland. It's kind of like a big LSD trip or something.
Now I want Harvey dressed up as a white rabbit. So
There we go. Oh, he's wearing a tux in this episode. He's wearing like other Earth clothing now. So yeah, hey, anything's possible, right? He could
it,
pop up in a bunny suit with ears and hopping around Crichton's head because it's sci-fi. Anything's possible,
anything's possible.
except bringing back a Delvian as not blue because that didn't go so well the first time. Alas, poor Zhaan. So, alrighty. So that is your homework, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Goodbye.